All right, man, peace. So Kevin Durant, this brother represents everything that is wrong with the so-called effeminized black man today. And when I say everything that's wrong, I'm not saying that Kevin Durant is a bad person. But he truly encapsulates why I tell so many of you brothers to let go of that so-called Mr. Nice Guy act. It doesn't pay off to be a so-called nice guy. It pays off to be someone with a code of honor, who knows how to respect others as well as himself. Why do I say that? Because when you start playing the Mr. Nice Guy role, you're basically not being genuine. And eventually what happens is you get exposed as an actor, a hypocrite, and then you try to overcompensate by being overly quote-unquote raw or real. And it only makes you look like more of a phony. And that's what's going on with Mr. Kevin Durant right now in regards to this back and forth with Russell Westbrook. I did a couple of videos months ago called Kevin Durant Twitter Victim, because that is what he is. He's someone who is overly infatuated with social media. He always wants to stay plugged in. And unfortunately for him, he's one of those cats who buys into the concept of the creation of a cult of personality. Meaning, he really believes his own hype. He allows quote-unquote fans to build up his ego. That is why he gets so traumatized when they start to tear him down. That is why he creates quote-unquote burner accounts or fake accounts or whatever the terminology is. Because he's worried about what people think about him. So he tried to live a fake life, and now he's trying to be overly real, and it's only making him look sillier. Why do I say this? Because there was some type of a comment made pertaining to Russell Westbrook and why the Oklahoma City Thunder were losing back in the day. And of course, Kevin Durant thumbed it up or put a yes to it or whatever niggas do on the internet. I don't know. I'm not really a social media guy like that. But anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
This is SportsCenter right now. I'm Will Reeve. Turns out LeBron James doesn't have the market cornered on passive-aggressive social media moves. Falcons wide receiver Julio Jones took his Twitter account private and scrubbed all his feeds of any Falcons photos or relationships Monday. The team says Jones just wants a, quote, fresh start on social media, and another source told ESPN the former Crimson Tide player was setting an example for current Alabama players.
I believe that because he recently was involved in one of Nick Saban's barbershop conversations in which he was instructing many of the incumbent Alabama Crimson Tide players to not fall down the social media rabbit hole. Once again, brothers, when you get to the point where mentally you have to scrub your whole account and have a fresh start like it's a relationship, you're getting way too concerned about what other people think about you and what's going on in the outside world. You have to be aware of what's going on in the outside world, but you cannot let it move you to the left hand or to the right. It's really not worth it. Because if you come across 1 million people in your lifetime, most likely 999,990 of them ain't going to be worth a damn. It just is what it is.
Kevin Durant knows about the perils of social media for athletes. Remember last summer's burner account fiasco? Well, KD is at it again, this time liking from his account an Instagram post that called former teammate Russell Westbrook the, quote, problem with the Thunder. What does this all mean?
Russell Westbrook is the problem and the solution. He's just all things in one. He's a force of nature, that dude.
Durant says nothing, telling ESPN he accidentally liked the comment as he scrolled through his timeline. We'll know more later.
I don't know how reasonable that is, or how rational or how realistic that is, because I'm not on Instagram or most of these social media platforms. It just seems very strange that this continues to happen to him. It's very obvious to me that Kevin Durant still has not gotten over whatever he felt like he endured while he was in Oklahoma City. And that happens sometimes. Maybe I'll liken it to a form of a sibling rivalry, where one of the brothers believes that the parents treat a certain sibling with a greater deal of patience and with higher regard than they get treated, and they become resentful. My thing is this: if you're in Golden State now, you're happy, leave it alone. Why are you still worrying about what Russell Westbrook is doing? Now, don't get me wrong, Russell will troll him also. So it's a two-way issue between the two of them. But for the most part, Russell seems to have moved on. He's been pretty good this season, especially after they've added a little bit of star power for him to play with. Kevin Durant needs to get over this. He needs to study his scouting report for the New Orleans Pelicans, because they're going to be a serious problem for the Golden State Warriors, I believe.
More First Take right now.
Julio, I'm not mad at you for the fresh start, but we're going to focus on KD. Some shade thrown on the Graham gentleman with KD with the quote-unquote accidental like. Max, was KD justified in liking this comment about Westbrook?
I don't think that it's a matter of being justified or unjustified. I just think that it's another manifestation of how childish Kevin Durant can be and how he really needs to get his shit together. Once again, he's trying to compensate for the quote-unquote nice guy role that he played for the years that he was with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he's really looking real foolish. Once again, brothers, be you. Don't be who people want you to be. As long as you're not breaking any laws and you're not infracting on the laws of the Most High, be whoever you are. People are going to come and go in your life. At the end of the day, if you live out a role, if you're a fake person, you're only going to become very resentful. It's going to appear as if you're resentful at others, but really you're resentful at yourself. Kevin Durant is resentful at himself because he's jealous of Russell Westbrook. For all the little criticisms that I have pertaining to Russell, none of them are malicious. And to be quite frank with you, I admire his persona. I admire the fact that he believes in himself. That's what a man is supposed to do. He's supposed to believe in himself. And I believe that Kevin Durant is jealous of many of the attributes that Russell has. And I think that it manifests itself in these passive-aggressive tweet issues that he has.
First of all, he says it was an accident. Now, I have liked many things accidentally, because when you scroll through, everyone knows on Twitter, your thumb can hit that little heart very easily.
Well, I think that he was on the gram.
You're like, wow, I like that. No, I didn't mean to do that. But in KD's case, he has no credibility, because, as was just reported, and people reminded him, he had the burner account last year. So you cannot take his word for it here. But let's say you did take his word for it, and it was an accident. And you're saying, to hell with the credibility, all right, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt anyway, we'll believe him. What is he going through that stuff for in the first place?
That's my point. You're in the midst of the playoffs. You're about to face the New Orleans Pelicans this Saturday. Should you not take some form of inspiration from your homeboy, your Uber car mate, LeBron James, and go 0 dark 30? What are you really looking for? You're looking for some Instagram hoes at 2 o'clock in the morning, and suddenly, somehow, you find yourself on a Russell Westbrook comment page? Like, come on, man. Get it together.
You know what KD is like?
Yeah, I know what KD's like. KD's like a little bitch, to be quite frank with you.
KD is like the guy who breaks up with his girlfriend. He's the one who broke up with her, but he keeps walking back and forth in front of her house, hoping maybe she's hanging out outside. He wants to see what she's up to.
That's not a bad analogy.
I mean, like, what is he doing? He's clearly conflicted about the situation, no matter how you slice this.
I don't think that Kevin is that conflicted. I think that he's dealing with some inner turmoil that he's projecting on Westbrook. I think that he's dealing with a lot of inner angst that he's projecting towards Russell Westbrook. Because once again, Westbrook has many character traits that KD wishes he had. One of them being that not give a fuck attitude. He's trying to approximate that right now. He's been trying to approximate it for the last 2 years, but it's just not him. He clearly gives a fuck. He gives a whole lot about a whole lot of things that are not really that important. And it may hurt him in the long run. But due to the fact that he has a very strong support system in the Golden State Warriors, at least professional support system on the basketball court, it probably won't be an issue that starts to trickle its way onto the basketball court.
This, and there's no other way to say it. He's playing himself. Well, I agree.
I think that he's playing himself, but at this point it's so absurd that he's not even really playing himself. He's just being him.
I agree with you there, but I do think it needs to go a bit deeper than that. First of all, listen. What KD's going to have to accept is the fact that, he looks bad here. He looks bad here. First of all, nobody believes him. Nobody believes that, he didn't do it. It was,
Most importantly, he does not believe himself.
He's not the one that liked this comment. It's innocent or it was a mistake. But nobody believes that. KD did it because KD is still harping on this. He can't let it go. And here's why he can't let it go. Because, he had no business going to Golden State. He rode the gravy train to an NBA title. Now, having said all of that, doesn't take away from the fact that he's a great, great basketball player. One of the top basketball players on the planet. This is a brother that's a career 27-point per game scorer. And oh, by the way, Max Kellerman, in his career in Oklahoma City in those 9 years, he went to 4 conference finals and he went to one NBA Finals. This is not a guy that's been devoid of elite competition or getting at least on the precipice of things. So we can't sit up there and disrespect him that way. But what he wants everybody to know, which is why I think we need to speak about this, is that once again, look, I'm justified in leaving. Because guess what? This is what I had to deal with when I was there. That's essentially what you're saying.
Well, let's establish this, Stephen A. Smith. Kevin Durant does have a lot in common with his Svengali, Mr. LeBron James. They both yearn to control the media narrative. The only difference is that LeBron James's technique is much more refined on how and in which ways he can contort the narrative so that he can have the media dispense the storyline that he wants. Kevin Durant does not know how to do that. He's a little bit too uncouth to understand how to do that right now. So he just runs around on the internet with fake accounts trying to thumb shit up and thumb shit down, and it's just really pathetic. He needs to move past this situation, come to terms with the decision that he made, and understand that when you make real-time, real-life decisions, you're going to alienate a lot of the people who claim to like you. That's why I tell brothers, do not come on my channel talking about you're a fan of mine. You should not be a fan of another man. You should be a fan or fanatical about things that actually reverberate in your regular life. You should be a fan of being as good a person as you can be. You should be a fan of being loyal to those who deserve it and who love you and who you love. You should be a fan of trying to build up and strengthen your relationship with the Most High. That's what you should be concerned with. Not coming on the internet and being a fan of someone who makes videos or watching TV and being a fan of an athlete or an entertainer. That's how you keep things in their proper perspective. Kevin Durant is someone who yearns for that public appeal, for that public approval. And he's never going to truly get it because he's not comfortable with who he is. That's very obvious to me.
It's essentially what this all comes down to. Look at what I had to do. I had to leave because I couldn't win with this cat, Russell Westbrook. Let me tell you what the real story should be. You didn't have to go to Golden State. That's what this is about. See, KD confuses things. KD and those and folks who support him try to paint this picture that people were getting on him for leaving OKC. It's not that you left OKC. It's that you left OKC within one game, 48 minutes of a trip to the NBA Finals.
No, sir. Stephen A. Smith, what you're still not getting is that the issue is not that he went to Golden State. Maybe he feels guilty about going to Golden State because they're viewed as the favorites. But the real problem is that he clearly is not comfortable with the decision that he made. He's worried about how it looks, even though it's been the right decision. And the only way that you can continue to live your life when you make real hard decisions is to not give a fuck about what people think about it. As long as you're not hurting anyone, you're not breaking any laws, you're not infracting on the laws of the Most High, who gives a shit what people think about anything? Anything. People come and they go. Most of their thoughts are based in their own self-interest. To hell with them. Right now, he's in a better place. His family is happy and healthy, I assume. He's happy and healthy, I assume. Who gives a shit about what Stephen A. Smith thinks? When you get involved with in these internet and social media back and forths, all that does is provide more fodder for the mainstream liberal media who are infatuated with Russell Westbrook and want to castigate you anyway. The best way to make trolls shrivel up and die is to let them understand how irrelevant they are by ignoring them or disregarding them. Most trolls are miserable. Let them wallow in their misery. So the issue is not that he went to Golden State. The issue is that he has not come to terms with the fact that he made a difficult decision in his life, and it has caused many of the members or the former members of the cult that he developed, the cult of personality that he developed in Oklahoma City, to dislike him. And he should never have worried about them in the first place, because so-called fans come and go. You could say one thing that will cause a person to say, I used to like you, now I don't like you anymore. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? That's life. Move along.
Up 3-1, you lost game 5, game 6, and game 7, and then left for the team that came back and made history by beating you. And so as a result of that, it's the team that you joined. That was the issue. Had he gone to San Antonio, nobody would have said anything. Had he gone to the Clippers, nobody would have said anything. Had he gone to Miami or Washington, think about this for a second, Max Kellerman. Just think about it. I know you don't imagine it, but just imagine for 1 second that D.C. native back in Chocolate City, all right, with John Wall and Bradley Beal as his teammates. Would we be, would we be talking about Toronto? Would we be talking about LeBron?
Right, but would KD have won a championship with those guys? That's the issue. Did they or do they even now have a culture of ball movement, which is obviously what seduced him into going to Golden State? Because he did not want to be the alpha dog. If he'd have went to the DC area, not only would he have been the alpha male or the alleged alpha male, but there would have been pressure on him to bring a championship back to his hometown city, because the understanding would have been that he was attempting to replicate what LeBron James did going back to Cleveland in 2014. So he was not trying to deal with that, Stephen A. Smith. Kevin Durant understands himself a little bit better than you understand him. His understanding of himself is far more realistic than your aspirations for him. He understands, just like you cannot make a hoe a housewife, you cannot make a quote-unquote beta male into a quote-unquote alpha male. And I think that there are far more degrees of manhood than just alpha and beta. But for the sake of the conversation, he knows that he cannot be something that he's not. If he just wants to be a member of the pack, that's just what it is. He does not want to lead the pack. He knows that he cannot do it. And that's okay. As they say, to thine own self be true.
We've been talking about them. We've been talking about the Washington Wizards, but KD didn't go there. What I'm saying is that it's where you elected to go, which was to a 73-9 juggernaut with a reigning 2-time league MVP and 3 All-Stars with a championship and back-to-back NBA Finals appearances on their resume. You chose to go there. That's the bigger story than you saying, "Oh, I left because I couldn't win with Russell Westbrook."
First thing is, he didn't go to a championship team. He went to a team that barely missed the championship, and I think that's the reason he could justify it to himself.
That's exactly the reason why he was able to justify it to himself, Max Kellerman. You're spot on with that. Had the Golden State Warriors won the championship in 2016, I don't think that he would have been able to justify it to himself to sign that contract.
You know, this is my speculation, but I believe he could
Yes, because he could look in the mirror and say, I'm the missing piece that they need.
He could justify to himself going to the Warriors because they, in fact, lost the title. But they had just won 73 games. They lost it by a hair, and they lost it to a great team in Cleveland with the great...
No, Cleveland was not a great team. They were a good team with a great player that had a myriad of variables all check off in their favor sequentially. Unbelievably so.
The greatest player in the world putting on an
after beating Kevin Durant.
Right, with a sidekick that also put on a great performance in Kyrie Irving. They go
to crackhead fiend again.
They barely lost to that team. So Kevin Durant, if he thinks because they
look at Steph Curry, Steph trying to get in there, like what's going on with these two hoes?
Because they didn't win the championship, it's okay to go there. That's a borderline call at best. I want to get to the Westbrook of it all, though, because you're right. In liking the comment, if it's intentional or passive-aggressive in some way, it's telling everyone, look, people, what I have to deal with. Now, does Kevin Durant look worse here, or does Russell Westbrook look worse? Because at a certain point, Westbrook, my favorite player, this guy I like to watch the most.
Who gives a shit?
Because of the aggression. You brought it up. He's never cheated the fans. He always...
I agree with that. You definitely don't get cheated watching Westbrook. You watch him, he's going to beat the other team, he's going to beat his own team, he's going to beat himself. I mean, shit. Russell Westbrook, that's like a tornado.
Always gives his all on every play, at least on offense. And he's a dynamo. But at this point, young Russell Westbrook was on a great team with young Kevin Durant, young James Harden, and young Serge Ibaka. They didn't win the title. Now, you may argue they were all too young. Fine. And then they were too cheap. And they let go of Harden. They still had KD and Westbrook and Ibaka. And they've had different iterations of that team around KD and Westbrook, and now Westbrook since then. You know, whether it's Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, whether it's a team without a signature player like that, but Oladipo, we didn't know how good Oladipo was when he was playing with Westbrook. Suddenly, Carmelo Anthony looks like a shell of himself.
Carmelo Anthony has looked like a shell of himself for the past 3 to 4 years. When the Knicks first acquired him from Denver, he was at the very end of his prime. Due to the fact that he's never kept himself in immaculate condition, and he most likely does not have the genetic makeup to have a long-lasting NBA career at a proficient level, he's been falling off incrementally year by year. He's been a basic mid-range shooter who likes to play off the elbow for the last 3 to 4 years now. He very rarely can beat his man to the basket. He has no explosiveness at the rim. That's just what he's been for a while.
Playing with Westbrook. The common denominator, if Kevin Durant's liking it intentionally, is Russell Westbrook is the common denominator. Whether he's with talent, whether the pieces fit, whether they don't, somehow he makes something less than the sum of its parts. And it makes Westbrook look bad too. Like, who looks worse here, KD or Westbrook? Well, that's really the question.
Well, Westbrook, well, listen, you can say that this morning because based on what we're seeing in this series, Westbrook is not looking great. But that wasn't the case before this series began, A. And B, and more importantly, how about asking ourselves and ending the segment on this question? If KD had gone somewhere else and won, with a team that had never won, really, how would we be looking at him now? Think about it. We've been talking about LeBron.
It does not matter, sir. All those hypotheticals, they really don't resonate in a real way. The fact of the matter is that Kevin Durant decided to go to the Golden State Warriors. He made the best decision for him. And in the same way, if there emerges a sports network that grows to be bigger than ESPN and they say, Stephen A. Smith, we want to bring you on board, we're going to offer you more money, more amenities, and we're going to treat you better, you'll leave ESPN as well. You're with ESPN because they represent the largest sports media outlet on the planet right now, at least in America. That's why you're there. They may be treating you like shit off camera. We don't know. But you're not going to leave there because you're a slave to fame and you're a slave to the money. Because you can go on YouTube, Stephen A. Smith, and have 2 million subscribers tomorrow and probably be making more money on YouTube or on the internet than you're making right now at ESPN. But you're a slave to that outlet. But if there was a larger outlet that could promise you more, you'd leave too. So why people begrudge Kevin Durant for going to a place in Golden State that clearly needed him? They needed someone who could bring what he brings, and he went and he left. I have no idea why they have a problem with it. But the even more relevant question in regards to this topic is, why does he have a problem with it? He needs to move past it and get over it. Kevin Durant, everybody's not going to like you, bro. Everybody's not going to like you. I know that you're trying to compensate now with this fake I don't give a fuck attitude, but that's not you either. You got to grow into your manhood and understand that when you make the decision that's right for you, you're going to piss certain people off. That's life. You're going to make decisions that are going to piss your loved ones off. You may be 18 years old and go to a college that your mother and father didn't want you to go to. You may take up a major that they didn't want you to take. You may go through life and get into a relationship and decide that the person that you're with is not right for you, and they're not going to like that. But if you understand why you're doing what you're doing, it is what it is. People are going to have to learn to come to terms with the fact that everything is not going to go their way. Everyone is not going to like you forever. But anyway, let's see what else they have to say here.
LeBron. We talking about Anthony Davis, okay? We see Ben Simmons and Embiid and the Sixers on the come up. How would we be talking about Kevin Durant right now if Kevin Durant had
did he leave the same way? Did he diss Westbrook? If he dissed Westbrook the same way out the door, then the conversation we're having right now would be the same. If he dissed Westbrook the same way out the door, we'd be having the same conversation right now.
Yeah, it's just a lot of dirty laundry coming out. Kevin Durant clearly has some unresolved issues in regards to how he feels like he was treated in juxtaposition to Westbrook. I think that he believes that he should have been treated better than Westbrook because he believes that he was a better player than Westbrook, which is debatable. I think that they both bring different things to the table. I think that Kevin Durant is more valuable to a team than Westbrook is because he's more proficient. But it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for someone who's going to bring you entertainment, then you're bringing Westbrook. If you want a player who's more proficient, you're bringing Durant. Westbrook has that alpha persona, but he does not have an alpha personality, if you understand the difference. The persona is perceived by the viewing audience, and the personality is what actually is within you.
That's not true. I don't have time to educate you right now, but that's not true.
I just got to add one thing because I am a fan of the gram, and I've also liked things, and you don't mean to like it, but it's very simple. You just press unlike. Come on, Katie, get with it. Coming up.
Anyway, hopefully Kevin Durant will come to terms with these issues that he has one day. I'm not going to get too in-depth about it, but of course, I always go back to the same thing. When you're raised in an environment like that, where he had no strong male figure to instruct him on the whys of life, certain issues like this are going to occur within a person, and he's not going to get good advice from 99.9% of people who either don't know or don't care to help someone like him. But anyway, peace.